Hello everyone, you're welcome to Vab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. In this video, I'll be sharing with us how I made this beautiful gown you see right here on the mannequin. It's a combination of lace and crepe fabric. In my previous video, I showed us how to draft and cut this gown. So this is a continuation video, which is the sewing video. So if you haven't seen the video on how to draft and cut this gown, I'll drop the link to the video in the description box, and also in the comment section is going to be pinned there. So that will be the first comment you will find. So just click on it and it will take you to the video. So before we get started, if you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button and ensure that you put on your notification bell so that way you receive a notification every time I upload a new video. And please feel free to share this video, like this video, ask questions if you have any. Thank you, and let's get right into the video. Okay, so this is our 180 flare. As you can see, I've joined all the pieces together, so we now have our full 180 flare. So watching the previous video will actually give you a clearer understanding of how we were able to achieve this combination. So I'll keep the flare aside and bring in the upper body so that we can go ahead and stitch them together. So this is our center front. You can see I have two pieces, our center front, and I ironed hasty to it. So this is the crepe fabric. And then I also have the second piece, which is the lining, and it's also the crepe fabric because the collar is going to come outside. So you want to make sure to use the crepe fabric for it also. And these are side piece. The side piece is the sample lace. I have my satin under it, and I've also ironed hasty to it to laminate it to give it that strength. So next I'm going ahead to stitch the center piece and the side piece together. First I notched the underbust point to make sure that they are well aligned. Then I'm going ahead to pin the side piece over the center piece. And you see, I'm just making sure to follow the bust, that's the bustier shape. Okay, so I'll pin it all the way to the armhole here, and then I'll take this to my sewing machine and stitch on 1/2 inch. So exactly what I've done here is what I'll repeat on the other side. So I'll pin also and then take to my machine to sew. And then this is our lining, can you see? And then I also have the side lining, and the side lining is the doll face satin that we used as our lining. But the centerpiece, I already said that it is crepe fabric. I also take this to my sewing machine and stitch on 1/2 inch, making sure that the underbust point aligns, and then I'll come back and give this a nice press. So here we are. As you can see, I am done stitching them together and it's coming out well already. So you can see I pressed the seam lines open. So I'm just going to use this piece of haste to keep the seam line open. So when you iron your haste or paper stay on the seam line, it just helps to keep it open because our paper stay is fusible. So it will stick there and keep it permanently open so that even when you wash the outfit, the bust area will still sit exactly the way it was when it was stitched. I hope we understand that. So I'm going to press the seam lines open and place my hasty over it to keep them open, and then I'll show us the next thing to do. So I'm done ironing the both sides. You can see the bust area is coming out well, despite the fact that it's not padded. Okay, so this is it. For the lining, I also pressed it open, but for the lining, I didn't iron any hasty. There's no need worrying about keeping it open. So it's the main fabric that you should be worried about. So the next thing I'm going to do now, can you see, is to reshape the armhole. Remember that armhole does not have the accurate measurement yet of the armhole. We extended the side piece. So we're going to now reshape the armhole now that we have joined them together. So the armhole I'm working with is 7.5 inches. So from the shoulder line here, I'm going to mark that 7.5 inches. Can you see this is where it ends? So next I'm going to reshape the armhole so that we'll trim out our excess. So very simple, just place your armhole curve so it will bring out the excesses for you. Can you see what is happening here? So it will just bring it out. So this is excess, so I'm just going to trim it out. So here, so most of the excess is on the side piece. Can you see? Let me bring in the back piece so that we can see what I'm talking about. Can you see? So the armhole now, they are matching up. So for the front, it's usually more inward, so I'll take it a bit in a quarter of an inch. You see? So now the back is wider than it with just quarter of an inch. Can you see what we have here? So now our front armhole is sitting well. So I'll repeat the same thing for the lining. That's just basically it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is to join them together at the shawl collar. And you see, this is our front piece. I'll place them right side facing right side, and then I'll join them together here on the shoulders. And you see, that's at the collar here. This is the shoulder, this is the neckline here. So I will join them here together on 1/2 inch. So I will stitch here on 1/2 inch. So please just watch carefully what I'm doing. I will stitch on 1/2 inch here. I will do the same thing on my lining. I'll place them right side facing right side, and then I will stitch on 1/2 inch. So this is our shawl collar. Now this is going to be our neckline. That is why I said whatever it is that is your neck width, which is 3 inches, we added 1/2 inch to it. So by the time we stitch on this 1/2 inch, we're going to be left with our 3 inches. Can you see? We're going to be left with our 3 inches. So we'll stitch on 1/2 inch and we'll be left with 3 inches. And then for the back, this is what we're going to do. We'll place the back, right side of the back. This is the main fabric now, right side facing right side. Right side facing right side. And I'm going to stitch on the zip allowance that we added. So here is my zip allowance. I added a zip allowance of 1.5 inches. So I'll mark down 1.5 inches this way. And you see, I'm going to stitch from the neckline and stitch up to 2.5 inches. And you see, so I'm stitching just from here to this point, to this 2.5 inches. I will repeat the same thing on the lining of the back. Then I'll show us how we join them together, the neckline. So I'm stitching lining separate, fabric separate. So I'll go do all this and come back and show us. Okay, so after joining them here on the collar, and you see, I went ahead to press the seam lines open. I did the same thing on the lining. You can also see I pressed the seam lines open. Okay, so this is it now. For the main fabric, this is what we have. That's the back piece now. You can see I stitched down to this 2.5 inches. So I'm going to also press the zip allowance open. Okay, so having done that, now the next thing I'm going to do is to place, now this is our main fabric and this is the main fabric too for the front piece. So can you see? This is the joining, the center. I'm going to make sure that this center back, this joining I have here, aligns with this one that I have here. Take note that I've pressed my seam lines open. Can you see? So I've pinned them together and they are aligned at the middle here. Now I'm going to pin the neckline. And you see that this is now our neck width. Remember I said that this part is the neck width. So I'll pin the neckline now to align with this part. And then can you see the shoulder of the back? So the shoulder of the back will now flip this way. Can you see? So you can see they are all matching up here. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side. So having pinned the center, you can see they are matching up. I'm repeating myself so that we are clear with this. Then this is the neckline. So this neckline will match up with the neckline here, and then it will flip this way to join them together on the shoulders. You see? So you can see they are matching up at the end here. So a simple way to join this, you're going to start from this midpoint, stitch from here ½ inch to this side, and then stitch from the midpoint also ½ inch to this side. So you will try your best to make sure you arrange this part. Can you see that when you are stitching, this part is likely going to fold? So if you want, you can as well notch it. Can you see? So that it allows that flexibility around this sharp point. This is the sharp point here, and the front is always the part that gives that issue. So you can just notch it a little, just diagonally. Can you see? So this will allow that flexibility around here, so that you can see how it now turns well. Okay, so I'll go stitch from here to here and do the same thing from here to here. So we'll now have something like this. So I'll go do that for both the main fabric and the lining. Then I'll come back and show us what we have. Okay, so I'm done joining them. And you see what we have? These are front piece and these are back piece. You can see the shoulders now are joined. Can you see that it is well aligned? It is very important for this part. This is center back. Let it align. I did the same thing too on my lining. They are all aligned. Can you see? I want to make sure to do that. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to notch properly. Notch this part properly so that it can relax and give it a good press. So all these are very important. It needs to relax well. Okay, so here now I'm going to press my seam lines open just this way. So I'll repeat the same thing on the lining. So I'm done ironing the seam lines open. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to turn it. This is the lining. I've turned the lining to the right side. And then this is our main fabric. I'm also going to place it right side facing the lining side. Can you see? Right side of the main fabric facing the lining. So I'm going to make sure that this center, that's the collar here, make sure that it aligns. Just like I made sure that the center back and the center front aligns, okay? Can you see? So I've pinned it here and they are well aligned. So now this way we can now pin all the way down to this side. So this is me basically pinning the shawl collar. So I'll pin it all the way to the waistline here, that's to the half length. I'll also pin this way. And you see, remember there was a break point, that part that we curved in. And you see this part. You want to make sure that when you are pinning the two curved parts, that's on the lining and the fabric, let them all align. Okay, so now this is what we have. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to start stitching from here down, and then I'll stitch also down. I'll stitch on ½ inch. So I'll go do that and come back and show us. Okay, so I'm done joining them. You see, so I'm going to press the seam lines open. This is what we have after joining them. You see? So I'm going to press the seam line open. All I need to do is to just press it open this way. So I'll do that and show us the next thing to do. As you can see, I've ironed my seam lines open. So next I'm going to fold it into two. So ironing it open first will actually help you so that it relaxes well when you are folded into two, like this. So I'm also going to iron into two all the way to the other end. Okay, so after ironing it flat, I'm going to place my hemming gum in between. So this will help keep the collar in place. I'm just going to place hemming gum Now this is what I'm doing. The hemming gum will be on the side of the fabric, because by the time we are wearing this outfit, it's the lining that will be showing on the outside. That's the part of the collar that will show outside. So I'll place the hemming gum on the one that is now the main fabric on this side. Can you see? I'm just going to place it all the way to the other end here. When placing the hemming gum, make sure you stretch out the fabric so that it doesn't fold any part. So now I'm going to lay it over like this. I'll make sure to arrange everything, and then I will steam press. Make sure that even the under part is not folding. Okay, so this is what we have. So we're going to have it sitting like this. You see our collar now, we're folded. I will have it like this to break at the neckline area here. So with that being said, the next thing we're going to do now is to shape the lining to lining, fabric to fabric. Okay, now take note of what I'm doing. Just make sure you don't scatter the neckline that you have. That's the collar you have ironed already. Now this is it. Let me show us this way. This is our main fabric and this is the lining. So I'll open up this side. So this is fabric to fabric here. Now I'm pinning the front and back together. I'll pin it this way. Then lining to lining. Can you see? This is the back lining here as well. Fabric to fabric, lining to lining. So pin them at the side. Okay, so I'll do the same thing on the other side. Fabric to fabric, lining to lining. So this one I'm pinning is lining, lining to lining. Then fabric to fabric. I went ahead to mark my side seam allowance. I'm stitching on 1.5 inches. So after taking out all our stitching, everything that we have joined together, I'm left with 1.5 inches. So I'll stitch on 1.5 inches here on the lining. I'll also stitch on 1.5 inches on the main fabric. So this is my dart. I'm going to stitch the back dart. Can you see? So we haven't taken our dart. So by the time we take our dart, so this 1.5 is the actual side sewing allowance. So I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. I'll stitch lining to lining, fabric to fabric, and stitch the darts on all the back pieces, lining and fabric separately. Then I'll come back and show us what we have. Okay, so I'm done stitching my darts. Can you see? And I pressed it. I also pressed my seam lines open, the side seam lines. Can you see? So you want to make sure to press very well. Press all the points, the seam lines, the dart, everything has been well pressed. So now this is what I'm going to do. It's now time for us to join the down part to the upper part. So remember that when we're drafting, remember the front we had the lapel allowance, and at from the breaking point I came down by 1 inch. I've already used ½ inch to turn the shawl collar, so that means I'm just left with ½ inch. So this is what I'm going to do. I will overlap this ½ inch here. Can you see? This is the opening point here. These are center front. So I'm just going to overlap it by ½ inch, just by ½ inch. Watch carefully what I'm doing. I'll overlap it here by ½ inch, and then I'm going to pin it down. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and just stitch down this point. Just this point, I'll stitch it down by ½ inch. Okay, as you can see, I've stitched it down. See, this is basically like just tacking down this point. So now I'll bring in the flare. So this is our flare here. Of course, this is the middle of the flare. I'm going to make sure that it aligns with this center here. So I place them right side facing right side. So for the flare, this is down part, and see I weaved it and then I folded just half in. So I'm going to stitch it. I've not stitched it yet. So that's for the main fabric. So you can see I've pinned down this point here. Then I'm going to pin the flare now all the way to this point. This is what we're going to do. We're doing inseam finishing. We're going to do inseam finishing. So now to this point here, I'm going to pin just to the center back. And you see, this is our center back. I'll pin to this point here, like this. Then here at the side, can you see how our sides are aligning? I'm going to hold the side of the main fabric and the flare, and then I'll also hold the side of the lining. Please take note of what I'm doing. But you can see that this side is separate. Can you see that I only pinned the main fabric and the flare together here, but I left the lining here? So I'm just going to pin only the side seam at this point. Can you see? So I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Make sure that the side seam aligns. So I pinned lining, fabric, all of them together at the front side here. So you can see the back side here. So I'm leaving it out. So I'm picking main fabric, and I'm pinning them together here. Can you see? So then I'm going to bring in the lining. So for the lining, you can also see that I've woven the down part. So I'm going to place it also. The lining has a right side. So I'm going to place the right side of the lining facing the reverse side. That's the right side now facing the reverse side. First, I'm just going to notch the middle so that I make sure that it's centralized. So right side of the lining, since I'm using a satin fabric, so right side facing the reverse side. So this pin I have here now, can you see? I'm going to take it off. So I'm pinning all 4 of them together. Did you see that? So I'll come here to this side now. These are side seam. I'm going to take off the pin and pin all 4 of them together. Now I'm going to pick the lining. So this is our lining and lining. So I'm just going to pick it this way and pin them together here. And you see, so lining is separate from the fabric. So I will repeat the same thing on this side. Take off the pin at the side here and pin all 4 of them together. So I haven't pinned them at the side here, so you can see this is now what I have left here. So lining and lining separate, so I'll pin them together as well. Okay, so now this is it. So fabric is separate from lining on the sides, but at the front piece they are all pinned together. So this is how I'm going to sew it. I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll stitch on 1/2 inch on the waistline and stop here at this side seam. I will also stitch the lining and stop here on the side seam. I will do the same thing on this side. Stitch the lining, stop here at the side seam, and then stitch the main fabric, stop here at the side seam. So that now means that I now have this part left. So all I'll now do is to hold them together at the side and then stitch the sides together. So you want to make sure to do the side, that's the back side, before you do the front, so that wherever the stitch stops here, you can now start from that point and stitch it to this side. So you have the lining separate from the fabric, and you have the lining separate from the fabric on the back, because we want to achieve inseam finishing. So I'll go do that and come back and show. Okay, so I'm done joining the waistline. So you can see our lining is separate here, and this is our main fabric. And you can see the waistline in front, everything is joined together. So the backs are still the parts that are opened. Okay, so another thing I went ahead to do is to mark my zip allowance. I ironed the zip allowance down, and you can see our crease line, and then I came down from the waistline with about 7 inches. That means from this opening, that's from the zipper opening, remember I stitched close 2 inches, so from this point to 19 inches is the opening where I'm going to have the zipper. Then I went ahead to stitch it all the way down to the hem. So we're just going to have our zipper sitting here, you see, and this is the zipper we're going to be using. So to sew the zipper, I'll have to open the zipper first. This is because you can see that this is where our zipper is going to end and this part is closed. So you don't want to stitch the zipper closed. It will be hard for you to bring out the head. Okay, so let me pin it and show us what I will do. So first I'm going to place the zipper 2 inches below the part I stitched. This is so that you hide the head down. And take note that this is on the main fabric, just on the main fabric. You see? So I'm going to stitch this one side up until this point. This excess zipper I have here, I'm just going to fold it and then stitch it. I'll stitch it only to the that's to the zip allowance here, so that we don't leave it hanging on the neck. Okay, or I'll trim it out, whichever one. Remember, we're doing inseam, so everything will be neatly covered inside. So I'm also going to pin this second side. And you see, so I'm going to stitch the 2 sides of the zipper. The essence of leaving it open is so that this is what will happen. Let me show us. This is the right side here. You see, this is so that the head can come and just hang here. And you see, but if you allow it go in, you will not be able to access it because there's no space here. I hope we understand that. So I'm going to stitch the zipper to the main fabric. After stitching the zipper to the main fabric, I'm now going to use the lining. These are lining here. I'll use the left side of the lining to turn the left side of the zipper this way. So I'm just going to place them right side facing right side like this and stitch it on this side. This is how I'm going to place it. These are lining now. I'll place it this way, right side facing right side, and then I'll stitch. This is the waistline here. Can you see? I'll place it this way and stitch it all the way down. Can you see? Just stitch it all the way down. So now the lining will now look like this. Can you see? So we'll have it looking like this, all neat. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. Then I'm going to fix the basic sleeve. It's just the basic sleeve, so I'll fix it at the armhole. I'm going to be using set-in sleeve method. So let me fix the zipper, turn the center back with the lining, and then I'll show us how I'll be fixing the sleeve. Okay, so this is what the inside of our gown looks like. Can you see? So I use the lining to turn the zipper area. You see how neat everything is looking. I'm going to make sure to give this a very good press. And this is the front side. And you see, it is very, very neat. I also went ahead to just fix our sleeve. You can see our basic sleeve. First I shaped the sleeve, and then of course the armhole, that's the opening I have here, I stitched the sleeve to it and then shaped and weaved it. So you can see how beautiful it's looking. So the next thing I'm going to do, which is the last thing, and our gown will be ready. There are 2 ways to this. It's either you use your press button to just tack this part so that it just holds it down, but that's not what I'll be doing in this case. I'll be top stitching it because we want to leave it closed permanently. So from the neckline here, that's from the collar here, I will come down by 11 inches. Remember that the breaking point is on the chest line here, and you can see the part is curved here, so it's showing. So all I need to do is to just take note of this measurement. What do I have here? From the collar to this point, I have 11 inches. So this is where my 11 inches is. So I'm going to make a top stitch from here to this 11 inches point, to this point. I'll make a top stitch from here to this 11 inches point. So let me pin it down. Can you see? So I'm just going to top stitch. Already you can see I've overlapped the center piece. So by overlapping it, so I'll just make a top stitch here. So when making the top stitch, I'll make sure that the zipper area is open, so that I'll just slide it under my machine and make the top stitch. You don't want to leave it closed, if not you'll mistakenly stitch on the back. We're just running a stitch here at this point. So I'll top stitch it and then come back and show us what we have. Okay, so after making the top stitch, this is what we have. Can you see? So you can see, just make sure that this stitch is very straight. It has to be very straight and neat. And you can see our neckline. So the depth of the neckline from the center back, that's the center back of the collar, is 11 inches. So if you want this deeper than this, you can as well increase it, because I use the chest line as a guide. That's where the collar breaks. Okay, so if you want it to come down a little lower, you can just do that. So just work with what you are comfortable with. I also have this flower. I'm going to be placing it here at the center front, just to add a little beauty to the gown. So this is what we have. You can see our gown came out really beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Let me show us the inside. Can you see? This is the reverse side of our outfit. You can see it is professional stitching. Can you see? Inseam stitching. Very beautiful. Everything came out so, so, so beautiful. You see, I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please make sure to share this video, like this video, leave nice comments, and do not hesitate to click on the subscribe button if you are yet to subscribe. Please, please click on the subscribe button to subscribe, and ensure that you put on your notification bell so you get a notification every time I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in my next video. Bye.